everyone. So if you're watching this video, you're in my English lab class. So you're either in first period, fourth period, or seventh period. So this is going to be today's lesson for those of y'all that are cohort 2, or you are working from home. This is for you as well. So hopefully by now, I haven't seen a lot of y'all, but by now, hopefully you've started writing your short story. If you do not know what that is or have not started it or don't know what I'm talking about, I'll show that near the end of the video, but I want to get through the lesson first. The lesson is not going to take that long. It's actually pretty short and it has to do with your short story. So let me share my screen really quick. Oh, that's not the PowerPoint, but I'll get to it. All right. So your warm-up, and since this hopefully is an Edpuzzle video, if it's not, I mean, I can't do anything, but if it is, you're going to be answering this question in a second. So today's lesson is going to be over literary devices. So I just want to know, what literary devices can you remember off the top of your head? I'm not asking if you know how to use them. I'm asking if you have heard of them or know them. So one example of a literary device would be a metaphor. So now you know those devices that you've heard of. Are there any you can name off the top of your head? So hopefully you've answered that question. And I will move on. So as I said, I'm going to go over literary devices. For lab class wise, you will see some questions that will ask about literary devices. It's important that you know them. And they will pop up again in your other English classes as well. So I'm going to go over them with y'all. Not all of them. I won't try to last too long with them. But there are some that I feel that you haven't heard of in a while. So I'll kind of touch on those a little bit. So let me actually let me go here. Let me get out of this because this is the file I'm going to use. Yes, I have a lot of tabs open. So literary devices are blah, 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 blah. Well, these devices are just plays on words, on language, that really help to affect a person's imagery, how we see things, how things are described. It is a little more expressive than just saying that dog is blue. You would say that dog is as blue as a hot air balloon or something like that. Or like, that doesn't make any sense. But that just instead of saying just a dog is blue, now you're kind of saying that it's as blue as this, and now you can visualize that in your head, like, oh, I've seen what this thing looks like, and yeah, it is that blue. Figurative language is a lot more descriptive than just stating things for what they are. And so there are a few terms that I'm going to go over with y'all. And yeah, as it says, it's language that's not meant to be taken literally or word for word. So imagery is that sensory language. I feel like we've been over that before. It's the use of language to create a mental image or sensory impressions for emotional effect and intensity. And so that's just when you describe something so well that you can, the way I see it, you can close your eyes and you can actually visualize it in your head, or you can feel it, or you can sense it in a way that just stating something does not. Similes, that's comparing two things using like or as. As I said, something, let's say his shoes were as red as a fire hydrant. Now we've all seen a fire hydrant and how red they are, like, oh, they're comparing that color. And that is what a simile is. And then metaphors are once again comparing, but you don't use like or as. And this, all the world's a stage. He's comparing the world to a stage, but he's not saying the world is like a stage, or is as big as a stage. It's just the world's a stage. Extended metaphors are, they're further developed throughout a work, and that's usually in poems. This is just one example. It's the whole poem is in itself a metaphor. You're comparing nature and all these things with something else. Personification That's when you give non-human things, abstractions, giving them human qualities. And so an example would be the wind whistled through the trees. Like the wind doesn't necessarily whistle. Whistling is a human thing, but we say the wind whistled. And thinking of how whistling sounds, we're like, oh, that's what it sounds like. Hyperbole is just an exaggeration. It's like, oh, this book weighs a ton, or I could eat a cow. You know, I'm so hungry I could eat a cow. That is a hyperbole. You just, you know, it's exaggeration, which as teenagers, I feel like you are well versed in. No offense, I love y'all so much. Idioms are just everyday expressions. They're not meant to be taken literally. So if you've ever heard the phrase, it's raining cats and dogs, or he let the cat out of the bag, or hey, hold your horses. Those are, I mean, obviously you don't want somebody to like hold their horses, but we know the phrase is saying, whoa, slow down. Or if somebody says it's raining cats and dogs, it's just raining really hard. I'm not really sure how these expressions came about, but because they've been used throughout time, we now know them as, you know, not literally, but we know them as the phrases that, those expressions. Sound devices, repetition is just, you know, you repeat like a certain line or phrase in a work. It's pretty obvious. Rhyme, that's pretty obvious as well. We won't get into that. Alliteration is when you repeat a certain sound at the beginning of words. So as this example says, nodded, nearly, napping. So that in. And you've heard names, but Mickey Mouse, you know, Peter Parker, Bruce Banner, those are alliteration examples. Coca-Cola, another one. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds. Hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells. And so that short E sound, that is what assonance is. Some of these you only really work with in poetry, but I'm going to talk about them anyway. And then consonance is the repetition of consonant sounds at the end or middle of words. So alliteration is at the beginning, consonance is at the end of words. Onomatopoeia are those sound words like bang, slam, you know, in your stories, honestly, that would be a good, you know, type of literary device to use. You know, the door slam, you know, the door slammed shut. He muttered, he grumbled, something was rumbling. Those are examples of onomatopoeia. We won't get into symbolism. Allusion is a reference to a person, place, or event, or a literary work. So if you've ever heard of the song Love Story by Taylor Swift, she talks about, you know, and you were Romeo, you were throwing pebbles, and my daddy said, stay away from Juliet. That's an allusion. She's alluding to the play Romeo and Juliet in her song. An oxymoron, we won't get into that, that's not important. Actually, is it? No, so oxymoron is, I'm gonna go over that, is a figure of speech in which opposites are paired for effect. So, you know, parting is such sweet sorrow, like sweet and sorrow you wouldn't normally put together, but they, you know, in this example, they fit. You know, the living dead, you know, zombies, they're alive, but they're technically dead. Those would be examples of oxymorons. Now, aphorism we won't go over, and epigraph we don't need to. Now, irony is a technique used to create meaning that seems to contradict the literal meaning of events. And so as you see in this picture, nothing is written in stone, and it actually is written in stone, so that's irony. Now, there are three types of irony: verbal, situational, and dramatic. So verbal irony is the use of words in which the intended meaning is contrary to the literal meaning. So I love Shrek, so I'm actually going to use this example. So in Shrek, Fiona says, where are you going? And Shrek says, I've got to save my ass. Now, ass is just, you know, a jackass is what a donkey is. It's the slang. And so, of course, he's speaking about donkey, but then he says, I'm going to save my ass. That's verbal irony. Then situational irony implies through plot or character that a situation is quite different from the way it was presented. And so if you've ever seen The Wizard of Oz, the three characters, the lion, the scarecrow, and the Tin Man, are missing these parts of them. The Scarecrow's missing a brain, the Tin Man's missing a heart, and the Cowardly Lion is like, he doesn't have courage. But when you get to the end of the film, you find out that they always had these things. The Scarecrow is very smart, and that shows he had a brain. The Tin Man was very kind and loving, and that showed that he had a heart. And the Cowardly Lion was very brave and wanted to, protect his friends, and so that showed he had courage the entire time. And with Dorothy, she wanted to be able to get home, and turns out her slippers were the thing that she was able to go home the entire time. Like, all she had to do was just wish to go home. So that is situational irony. And then dramatic irony is a character says or does something that he or she does not fully grasp, but which is understood by the audience. So if you ever see Superman, actually any superhero movie, so like, think of Spider-Man. Like, we know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but practically every other character in the movies does not know. And so we know as the audience, we're like, hey, he's Spider-Man. And, his characters will be like, oh, I met, like, if you've ever seen, like, the older ones, Mary Jane was in love with Spider-Man. She was like, oh, he saved my life and he's so beautiful. And she was telling this to Peter, who is Spider-Man. And he's just like, oh, yeah, that's funny. And so we know, we're like, oh, look, she's talking about him, but she doesn't know that. She thinks she's talking about a completely different person. So that is dramatic irony. Sarcasm, I mean, we use that all the time. Y'all know, I think y'all know what sarcasm is. Paradox is just a contradictory statement. So if somebody, some people say, I'm nobody, that's, a contradiction. You really are somebody, but you say you're nobody. That's actually it. Paradox was the last one. So I really wanted to go over these with y'all, and this document will be in Schoology. And actually, this is the lesson for the day. I just wanted to go over these literary devices with y'all. Hopefully throughout the video, I've had a few questions asked that you've answered. And that is it for the day. And so really quickly, I'm going to show y'all in Schoology. So today's folder, we'll have that PowerPoint that I just went over, the literary devices one. And it'll also have the overview and the draft. So technically, those of y'all that are in cohort B, you don't have to work. This was your lesson for the day. What you're watching now is it. That's all you have to do is watch this video. You don't necessarily have to do the overview and the draft. If you're behind, because you should have started on those last week. So if you're behind, I recommend that you do them or start working on them. But I will see you tomorrow, so you'll be able to work on them then. For those of y'all that are asynchronous, I recommend that you do start working on these things. I'll have a new lesson for tomorrow that'll be in Schoology, and so that'll be just probably a little bit more over literary devices and all of that. And so just watch out for that video tomorrow. But for cohort B, I will see you in class tomorrow. So you do not, or cohort 2, sorry. I'll see you in class tomorrow, so you don't have to worry about working on your story today. This is just for the asynchronous people. For those of y'all, please start working. If you're like, what is she talking about with this story? If you go into week 3 and go to 1014, this PowerPoint has everything that I went over the day I introduced this assignment. So, and actually the Zoom video itself, if you watch the Zoom video, that'll actually have me talking about it. So I actually highly recommend that you watch the Zoom video instead of just going through the PowerPoint. And I believe that is it. So if y'all have any questions about what I just talked about, if you want to go, or you have questions about the video, if you have questions about the assignment, let me know, email me, message me in Schoology. I'll get to you when I can. If you are in cohort 2, I will see you tomorrow. So if you don't have, if the question's not a burning question or something really important, you can just wait until tomorrow. For those of y'all that are asynchronous, please get with me because I'm not going to be seeing y'all. If you have anything or need any help. Also, for asynchronous, if you really want to get with me and work in real time, one-on-one, if you want me to go over stuff with you that way instead of just watching this, Let me know, email me, and what we can do is meet like before school, after school, during school, like during lunch or something. And I can actually open up a Zoom and see you real time, and we can go over some stuff together if you need that help. But if not, you're good. Just email me or anything if you need anything. If you're not able to open the assignments, if you're working on the assignments today, just let me know and I'll get those sent to y'all. The attendance link, I don't know if we're doing attendance links anymore, to be honest, but if we are, that'll be, I will post that in the in Schoology around the time of your period. So just make sure you're looking in Schoology to see that attendance link. It'll be posted in like the updates, the little messaging section that I send when I send y'all messages. It'll be in that thing. So just be sure to watch out for that. And that is it. So if you need anything, you can always email me, let me know. And cohort B, cohort 2, I will see y'all tomorrow. Yeah, and that's it. So y'all have a great day or evening or afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Bye y'all.